This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Picking up the pieces, West Dalhousie residents rebuild their lives after the Long Lake wildfire. House wraps. The fall sitting of the Nova Scotia legislature ends after less than 2 weeks. And brick by brick, the IWK's new emergency department is recreated in Lego.
Lots of sunshine this weekend with mild temperatures as well. Solid chance for showers next week. Your full forecast is coming up.
Good evening. The Long Lake fire is now considered under control, but the cleanup for residents who've returned remains a monumental task. The CBC's Jane Sponigal visited West Dalhousie and met one man who's rolling up his sleeves trying to get his life back on track.
Look at this here. There's the glass from the window that was from the garage that actually melted.
This is what's left of Jason Burton's garage and shed. It had been a 2-story building for family birthday parties and hangouts. Now, scrap metal. Burton knows he's lucky. The Long Lake fire in Annapolis County that took 20 homes spared his, but barely.
The things that burnt, and when the wall had collapsed and fell down, actually things were about 5 feet away from our back deck.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how does that make you feel when you know that the fire was that close?
That makes me feel like there was more than a miracle that happened while our house didn't catch fire.
Burton says sprinkler systems set up by firefighters protected his home. There's only some minor damage. What do you say to all those folks who put in lots of long hours to fight this fire?
I want to thank you so much. Yeah. I truly appreciate everything that they did.
Further down West Dalhousie Road, others aren't so lucky. The fire skipped and jumped from property to property, leaving some unharmed and destroying others. Life isn't completely back to normal. Well water still needs to be tested before being used for drinking and cooking. And while the fire is under control, it's still burning.
This end of our block is actually still in a hot spots. There's still hot spots around, so there was tankers and still helicopters flying over, checking hot spots, and they actually had the drones from British Columbia out in the evenings checking for hot spots. So it was a little bit nerve-wracking too at the same time, but I was so focused on getting home and sleeping in our own bed that, it did bother me a little bit, but I kind of put that stuff aside. And as the days went on, we kind of get a little bit more used to it.
Burton has advice for those who are now evacuated from their homes and cottages in Kings County because of the wildfire there. Lean on support from family and friends. He says that's what helped him. And insurance will help him with some of the costs of rebuilding his garage. Some say they won't be rebuilding or returning. But after 6 weeks, there are already signs of regrowth. Jane Sponigal, CBC News, West Dalhousie.
The Lake George wildfire in Kings County has grown slightly in the last 24 hours as it continues to burn out of control. The fire is now an estimated 250 hectares in size, up from 245 hectares on Thursday. The Department of Natural Resources says there are still no reports of damage to structures, and crews are continuing to build fire breaks around the perimeter. So far, the wildfire has forced the evacuation of 350 homes and cottages. Ryan's here with first look at the weather, and it sounds like no immediate relief for folks fighting the fires.
No, that's right. The winds will remain fairly light over the next couple of days. That's one little glimmer of good news, but dry conditions, and yes, that is really going to be the case right into next week. But we do have some relief coming in the long range. We'll show you that in a sec. First, the Saturday forecast, again, really quiet. We'll see some clouds building up into the afternoon as a weak trough comes through. We've got this warm front extending in on Sunday. That'll throw more clouds into the mix. Maybe an isolated shower Sunday evening in Cape Breton as the front moves right over. There it is, Sunday evening into the overnight. This area of high pressure moves off to the south, and that will really open up the door for the southwest winds. Monday, temperatures are really looking quite mild indeed, mid-20s as we get into this warm pocket. But We got a front coming for mid next week. Temperatures are going to be dropping as this cool pocket comes in, and a much needed chance for showers Wednesday. Looking good. We'll talk about that in detail with your full forecast in a few.
All right, lots to talk about. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
The fall sitting of the legislature has wrapped up after just 8 days. The government passed 9 bills, including 5 that were omnibus, affecting multiple pieces of legislation in a bill. As Michael Gorman reports, the premier says the government is acting efficiently, but opposition leaders say he's looking to limit scrutiny and debate.
Blink and you might have missed it. MLAs completed the business of the fall sitting today after just 8 days. The government passed 9 bills, 5 of them omnibus, affecting more than 50 pieces of legislation. The premier characterized the sitting as productive and efficient.
Lots of good things happened in this session. Lots of legislation that's really important to Nova Scotians, and I'm proud of the work that was done.
But opposition leaders say Houston and his government don't have much to show for their 8 days at the legislature, 2 of which the premier missed while traveling to Ottawa for meetings. During part of the debate last night, Houston was at a Halifax Tide soccer game.
What is it that the premier cares about? Does he care about this legislation he says is so consequential that he can't be bothered to be here and vote for? Does he care about the issues facing Nova Scotians that they can't be bothered to legislate on? I don't know. I wish that he'd answer that question.
You're trying to pass all of this in an 8-day period. The public wants to come in. They have concerns around what's being tabled, and there's confusion around it because there's so many different topics in it. So it's unfortunate because it really stifles the public input in the debate.
One bill drew more attention than any other during the sitting. The Protecting Nova Scotians Act creates new rules overseeing bouncers and around the collection of social insurance numbers. It also increases penalties and broadens the rules against blocking logging roads on Crown land. Mi'kmaq land protectors and others have said those changes target a blockade on Hunters Mountain and Cape Breton. The Natural Resources Minister would not say if the new powers would be extended to clear land protectors, but he did call on them to stand down.
That is the wish at the end of the day, to be honest. Yes, let the activity go and have peaceful protests in a different sort of matter. We've had different activities on Crown land before where the protests were taking place, and we've asked them, can you please just, we're not against your protest, please take it to a different area of this area, section of this area, if you will, and it's worked out.
Land protectors who attended the final vote last night at Province House on Bill 127 say they do not plan to leave Hunters Mountain. Michael Gorman, CBC News, Halifax.
Meanwhile, the provincial government brought in sweeping changes for development in Halifax today. The province designated the entire city as an interim planning area to allow the move. The changes include removing bedroom mix requirements in new buildings and allowing more manufactured housing like shipping containers. The planning for 9 new suburban sites where major development is expected will also move ahead. Most of the changes were in the city's new regional plan that was rejected by the province this summer.
This is being done in the absence of, just because we see the urgency, I should say, to see projects go ahead. So this is, as you know from listening to question period, housing is still a very big issue in our province, shortage of housing.
Opposition leaders say the move is a short-sighted attempt and takes over traditional planning powers from the municipality, but that's something Halifax Mayor Andy Fillmore expected.
There's no harm in moving the construction of housing along as quickly as collectively the municipal and provincial government can. And that's what today does. So, and I'll stress again, this was expected. This is the result of months of collaboration between the municipal and provincial staff and months of political collaboration as well.
Meanwhile, the rest of Halifax Council only found out about the changes today. A senior New Brunswick official says their premier had to convince Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston to agree to paying an equal share of the work to protect the Chignecto Isthmus. Ottawa signed a deal with Nova Scotia and New Brunswick in March to fund upgrades to the isthmus. It is a narrow strip of land connecting the two provinces that is increasingly vulnerable to extreme weather and flooding. The upgrades will cost $650 million, with Ottawa footing half of the bill and New Brunswick and Nova Scotia splitting the rest. But New Brunswick's Deputy Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure says it was a tough sell.
Nova Scotia was hoping to have New Brunswick pay more than their fair share. Our Premier was able to negotiate with the Premier of Nova Scotia to make sure that it's a 50-50 split between the two provinces.
Kane said the 10-year timeline for the project began with this year's funding agreement. Well, a devastating year for motorcyclists in Nova Scotia is prompting calls for action from safety advocates. Andrew Sampson has more.
It's been a deadly year for motorcyclists in Nova Scotia. 16 riders have died in collisions so far, more than any other year in the last decade. The headlines show they're both young and old, people new to the road or enjoying their retirement. Nova Scotians you'd run into at church, the pub, or at school.
It's only getting worse and worse.
Marlene Roach is the founder of the Bikers Down Society, a group that offers financial assistance to injured riders. They try to fundraise as often as they can for a mission they feel is more necessary than ever.
I'm seeing broken limbs, amputated body parts, road rash, head injuries, facial injuries, like anything you can imagine.
Bikers Down wants to see it become mandatory for bikers to complete a training course before getting their license. They'd also like to see limits on the type of motorcycle new riders can drive.
The government got to step in, they've got to do something.
Motorcyclists are considered vulnerable road users. Of the 16 deaths this year, 9 came during collisions with larger vehicles. In every one, the bikers died while the occupants of the vehicle walked away unharmed or with minor injuries. The RCMP says nearly every collision they investigate could have had a different outcome.
All of our collision analysis and reconstruction, all of our files that we do, we go at them with objectives and conclusions. And the objectives are often very common, direction of travel, area of impact, speed, safety use, and they almost all end with causal factors, what caused this collision. And there are very few that are not in some way, shape, or form preventable.
Ford says staying alert is vital because the main causes of death in road collisions are driving aggressively, distracted, or impaired, and failing to use proper safety equipment like seatbelts and helmets.
Look twice, save a life.
Andrew Sampson, CBC News, Halifax.
Canada Post has presented a new contract offer to the Canadian Union of Postal Workers. The offer comes just over a week after the federal government announced plans to transform the financially strapped service, launching the roughly 55,000 postal workers into a nationwide strike. It includes a wage increase of just over 13% over 4 years. The Crown Corporation says the offer allows for modernization while balancing its financial realities. The union has not responded to the offer. A small-scale version of what will become the new IWK Emergency Department is now on display at the hospital, and it's made out of more than 25,000 bricks of Lego. Construction of the new emergency department is underway and is expected to be completed by 2027. Have a look.
This is me hiding in the window. Hi, I'm Sean McLeod. I'm from Holdfast Bricks. I am a local brick building artist. I was involved in this for the last 2 years to design and then construct this amazing Lego structure of a new emergency room at the IWK. I took to the idea, ran with it, and we had a design almost within a weekend, and that led to expanding many times over, and then it became what's here behind me. This building is expected to just become a permanent fixture in the IWK. As the new emergency department kind of opens up, whenever the construction finishes, it'll be moved into that waiting room area for kids to look at and play with while they're just sitting waiting to get a treatment. And I think it's going to be a really amazing thing.
Look! This is a fantastic way to introduce kids that are coming to our health facility to what's happening around them. There's a ton of construction they see, they don't really know what's going on. This is a way to give them a bit of a diversion, a distraction. It's exciting for them, it gets them interested, and also engages their parents.
We think like 150 hours to do the design digitally, and then probably another 250 hours to actually put the build together.
You're a genius.
I may have slipped myself into it, as well as a baby version of my daughter and a goofy younger version of my son, and my wife are there. There's a lot of humor in the characters and the storylines that I've put into this display. Definitely something entertaining, as opposed to just a standard architectural model. I think this is definitely a piece of entertainment.
Misty look in Talon. Ryan will be up next with the full weather forecast. Stay with us.
This weather update is brought to you in part by Atlantic Lottery's iGames. Play hundreds of games on the Atlantic Lottery app or at alc.ca.
We've got Ryan back with his full forecast, and October sort of taking the place of where September left off in terms of dry weather.
And warmer than normal temperatures as well. That's definitely been the theme for the last, a few months, really. And as we look at the summary from September from Environment and Climate Change Canada's Climate Atlantic Office, and you can see, big, in the entire province, in the 25 to 50% of normal rainfall, with large pockets, including the Valley, Cumberland County, and partial sections of Colchester County and across that North Shore, basically that entire North Shore, 25% of normal or less. And Cape Breton also in there. And I could tell you places like Kentville and Greenwood had basically just 10% of normal rainfall for the month of September. So it was super dry. And there are the temperatures, which were near average. Shearwater a little above average, about a degree above average, and Halifax Airport and Yarmouth pretty close to that. But obviously the big story was the dryness, as we know. There's a beautiful live look at Sherbrooke, beautiful Sherbrooke Village, and what a beautiful evening it is. You can see the fall colors there. Everybody pretty much saying the same thing, and based on the pictures coming in as well, we're running about a week to 10 days ahead of schedule in terms of those leaves. Likely the drought having an impact on those leaves and on the trees, obviously. Low temperatures this morning, you can see we did dip to the freezing. Greenwood, Truro, below the freezing mark, Antigonish and Sheet Harbour, Malay Falls area. Shelburne also -1. So it was a pretty cold start, but we recovered quite nicely with temperatures into the high teens and low 20s. Still hanging on to the teens at this hour. Now, looking at the satellite and radar, quiet indeed. High pressure moving in. There's Imelda, which continues to fan out to the south and east. As we look at the forecast, temperatures tonight won't be nearly as chilly, but still cool, but seasonal for this time of year. 4 to 8 degrees generally. We'll see some inland low-lying areas dipping into the 2 to 3 range, but looks like that frost risk is a lot less than last night. Now, as we move into Saturday, you can see a mostly sunny sky. We'll see some clouds kicking up, especially Cape Breton and the North Shore, into the afternoon. Mostly sunny, Tri-County, the Valley, the South Shore, the metro area is going to remain mainly sunny throughout the day as well. Quiet into Saturday evening as well, if you do have some Saturday evening plans. 16 to 20 degrees across Cape Breton tomorrow. The west to northwest winds sustain near 20, gusting 30 to 40, but a beautiful day on the island. We'll see temperatures ranging between about 17 to 20 degrees through eastern parts of the mainland as well. And back into central areas, 18 to 21 will be our temperature range, with northwest winds 20 gusting to 30. And a similar story for the west. Northwest winds 20 gusting to 30. We'll see coolest temps in those onshore winds, Yarmouth and Digby County, Annapolis Royal, but we'll crawl up into the low 20s for areas in the west, for most areas in the west for inland. There's Sunday. There's that warm front I talked about earlier, and that will again move across the province, bring an isolated chance for a shower late Sunday afternoon into Sunday evening, primarily for Cape Breton. Can't completely rule it out for the North Shore, but the better chance is actually going to be into Sunday night, as we'll show you in just a second. With that increased cloud cover for Cape Breton and the North Shore, temperatures here are going to be cooler. We're going to be 13, 15, 16 degrees, and then we'll watch temperatures climb a little bit higher, 18 to 19, 20 degrees possible in through the southwest, where the skies are going to be a little bit brighter. Along that front, that's where we'll have a chance for a shower for Sunday night into early Monday for Cape Breton, and then that front will move off and that warm sector will really move overhead, and that's what will cause our temperatures to really warm up quite nicely. Mid-20s for Monday. Could see some 25, 26 degree temperatures across parts of the province on Monday, by the looks of things right now. Bit cooler on Tuesday as we cloud up. Really good chance for showers Wednesday as a front comes through, and that will certainly reset our temperatures for late next week, Amy.
Yeah, the rain will be welcome, though. Thanks, Ryan.
Definitely. Thank you.
Well, Halifax artist Yewande Tete is a self-described perfectionist, but with live caricature art, Tete has let go of perfection to quickly capture a person's unique essence. This piece was created for the CBC Creator Network.
Hey, my name is Yewande Tete, born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria, and I live here in Halifax, Nova Scotia, and I'm a live caricature artist. In order to capture someone's essence quickly, I try to find something that makes them unique, whether it's their smile, a gap teeth, a mole, glasses, whatever it is that makes you unique, I try to capture that in my drawing. So I love art, but the thing is I'm a perfectionist, so with caricature art, it brings me out of my shell and it makes me just be in the moment and draw what I see and just go with it. So when it comes to favorite reactions, I feel like each reaction is amazing. Just turning that paper around, seeing their smile. I haven't found one that I'm like, yeah, this is the one. Every reaction is amazing. It's nice to see that joy come out of people because people expect the worst, and then when they see it, just to see how beautiful and awesome they are, I just love it. One of the favorite ones I got was a couple, and the wife said that they don't have a lot of pictures or anything together, and she was so happy with the work that I did, and she said she was gonna frame it and give it to him for their 10th anniversary or something like that. So it was nice to be a part of that celebration and know that this is gonna mark a special moment in their life and in their relationship. I just want you to know that you are beautiful, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and what I see, I want you to see that as well. So I hope when I draw you, you can see how beautiful you are.
Coming up, farmers in the Maritimes say their wild blueberry crops are taking a hit from the prolonged drought this year. This year's hot, dry weather has not been good for the province's wild blueberry crops. And for more on this, I'm joined by Jeanette McDonald, head of the Wild Blueberry Producers Association of Nova Scotia. So talk to me about what's happened this year with the drought and the blueberries.
Yeah, this year drought was really impactful to the wild blueberry crop in Nova Scotia. So we're seeing our total yields down about 55% across the province. So typically our growers would produce about 45 million pounds, and our best estimates at this time is that we're going to reach about 20 million pounds. So a significant decrease in crop volume.
And it's not just the volume, that the berries are smaller. You've got some in your hand right here.
Yeah, so berries are smaller, so the actual fruit size is a bit smaller, and we were seeing shriveled fruit, and fruit was actually dropping off the plants. It got so dry that fruit was falling, and the harvesters were having a difficult time actually picking the crop up off the plants, and it was falling through to the ground. So there was crop losses that way as well.
And this is a major export for the province. Can you talk about how impactful this industry is?
Yeah, so we have about 600 growers in Nova Scotia, and they contribute about $190 million to the provincial economy. That's through export sales of berries, through jobs, processing. It's a large industry for Nova Scotia.
And when did growers start to notice that things were going to be tough?
It really wasn't until the end of July. So growers were going into the season with a lot of optimism. Pollination for the crop was really good. And even in mid-July, the fruit was getting to be a good size and the plants were looking healthy. But as July went on and there was no rainfall and we got into August, which is our typical start of harvest, things really turned quite quickly, and drought had severe impacts for growers.
And the harvest is all done now?
Yeah, harvest ended early this year. So our last growers were done towards the third week of September, which typically will get pushed kind of to the end of September. But because there was the impacts that we saw, the plants just had their fruit set early, and they were done earlier this year.
And what will that do for the prices that the growers are getting for them and people are paying for them at the stores?
We haven't really seen a difference in price at retail level currently, and for our growers, price did increase. So growers were coming off of kind of a few years of lower prices. Wild blueberries prices are really a supply and demand driven crop. So what happened this year is we are seeing a rise in price for them. The unfortunate part is that it's still not going to cover cost of production for many of our growers. Their yields were just so low, the price isn't that high to be able to cover it.
So do many of them have crop insurance, or are they looking for another way to be moving forward?
So there is crop insurance available for wild blueberry producers, and there's other business risk management programs. We have a mix of participation in the industry, and we certainly need more growers participating in those programs. The unfortunate part is that those programs aren't fully meeting the needs of growers, and so we're working with government currently to try and make improvements to those programs. And as we're seeing more climate impacts, we know that we need to have supports in place for our growers that they can rely on. So that's something that we're working on with government, but we also need financial support in programs for those growers that are seeing severe losses.
And looking forward to next season, I guess you're hoping for a snowy winter. Is that what the best you can hope for going forward?
Yes, and this won't be just for wild blueberry growers. We definitely need moisture levels to come back up in the soil. Wild blueberries love having snow cover on any year. So yes, snow cover would be really helpful. We are going to see probably a reduced yield again next year. Wild blueberry fields are managed as a biennial crop, so every second year they're producing fruit. So the field behind us here had fruit on it, but the field to my right here didn't have fruit. But you can't really see the difference right now, and typically that's not what a field would look like. So that field's been stressed a lot. We're seeing some dead plants, and those just won't recover by next year.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming up, as Israel continues to bombard Gaza, Hamas responds to U.S. President Donald Trump's peace proposal. And some of the victims in an attack at a Manchester synagogue on Yom Kippur were accidentally shot by police. Welcome back. Hamas has responded to U.S. President Donald Trump's peace plan for Gaza. A statement from the militant group says it will release all Israeli hostages, alive or dead. But it's also calling for negotiations on other points. Trump responded by telling Israel to immediately stop bombing Gaza so that the hostages can get out safely and quickly. He says he believes Hamas is ready for a lasting peace. The CBC's Paul Hunter reports on what could happen to the supply of aid if the fighting continues in Gaza.
2 years into Israel's war on Hamas in Gaza, when word spreads that there's food, chaos. Children among the throngs of desperate, starving Gazans battling to feed themselves and their families. If the war continues, Abdullah Al-Komi tells CBC, will die. After an aid blockade through the spring, Israel has allowed in more food the past couple of months, but say aid groups not nearly enough. And the need for food grows as the crowds fleeing Gaza City make their way south toward displacement camps and more hunger. The Israeli bombardment continues. A UN-backed food security group has already declared a famine in Gaza City, a characterization Israel strongly denies, saying it was based on biased data. Still, experts warn without a ceasefire or more food aid allowed in, deaths here will grow exponentially. And while scenes like this are sobering, it gets worse. Deeply malnourished infants now lay in Gaza's remaining hospitals in suffering misery. Tahani Naji Ahmed Abu Jazer's child is a year old. With little access to milk or food, Mahmoud has lost nearly half of his weight the past 6 months. My child is in my hands, she says, and every day I watch him die. The hunger leaves parents in anguish, doctors effectively helpless.
This is the situation in Gaza nowadays. The whole rooms of the hospital, they are fully occupied by severe acute malnutrition.
Into all of this, the U.S. proposed ceasefire plan, which, if accepted, would allow the free flow of aid to Gaza. Says UNICEF's James Elder in Gaza, it would change everything.
Humanitarian aid is not just food. You know, it is hygiene kits for girls, it's incubators, it's tents. All those things are critical, but it has to start with a stop to the indiscriminate attacks and a stop to the restrictions on the most basic things that children and women need.
When will it all end, they wonder, in ever more desperation. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Jerusalem.
New information is emerging about a car and knife attack that left 2 people dead outside a synagogue in Manchester, England, Thursday. British police now say one of the 2 men who were killed may have been shot by police. Julia Chapman reports from London.
Police have released details of both the victims and the attacker involved in yesterday's incident. They've named the men killed as 53-year-old Adrian Dolby and 66-year-old Melvin Kravitz. Police say one of the dead, we don't know which one, suffered a gunshot wound, as did one of the 3 people left injured, although that person is not in a life-threatening condition. The suspect wasn't carrying a firearm, so it's believed that a police officer accidentally shot 2 innocent people while trying to stop the attack. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has been visiting the scene in Manchester today, where he praised emergency responders.
I am absolutely clear in my mind as to the professionalism of the response, the speed of the response, and also that an absolutely awful incident would have been even worse if it hadn't been for your response.
Police have also announced that the perpetrator is thought to be 35-year-old Jihad al-Shami. He was killed at the scene. He wasn't previously known to the security services, and an investigation is now ongoing as to what his motives might have been. Jewish leaders say this is the culmination of 2 years of rising anti-Semitism in Britain.
There is so much more that needs to be done if the deaths of these 2 poor souls are to mean anything.
There's also been a debate unfolding over protests due to take place in London. The weekly demonstrations started as pro-Palestinian marches, but recently many have taken up the cause of Palestine Action, which has been outlawed in the UK. London's police force has asked organisers to call off tomorrow's march because they say it will draw police resources away from communities at a sensitive time. A group called Defend Our Juries, which has been organising the demonstrations, responded to that request, first condemning the Manchester attack and calling it genuine terrorism. But it urged the force to focus on community policing rather than arresting peaceful protesters. And it said that postponing the protest risks conflating the actions of the State of Israel with the Jewish people, who it stressed bear no responsibility. Around 1,500 people are expected to attend tomorrow. If all of them are arrested, it could be a record for the number of detentions at one protest here. Julia Chapman, CBC News, London.
A woman will lead the Church of England for the first time in history. Sarah Mullally has been named Archbishop of Canterbury. The CBC's Briar Stewart takes a look at the challenges she faces.
Hello. Thank you very much.
Welcome. It's fitting that even before Sarah Mullally is confirmed as the Archbishop of Canterbury, she met with students.
Hi.
More than 4,000 schools in the UK are run by the Church of England.
There's no oil in the pan.
An institution that has been recently plagued by scandal.
As a church, we have too often failed to recognise or take seriously the misuse of power in all its forms.
Mullally's appointment comes after her predecessor, Justin Welby, resigned last year over the church's handling of a prolific child abuser. Mullally, who is currently the Bishop of London, has pushed for a more open and transparent church. Mullally will become the first woman to hold the title of Archbishop of Canterbury in more than 1,400 years, making her the spiritual leader of more than 80 million Anglicans.
It's very good. It's very exciting news. But I wouldn't want people to think, because of this, that there is equality for women and men in the church.
This London-based vicar says there's still division among some conservative corners about whether women should be in leadership positions in the church. In Nigeria, which is home to nearly 20 million Anglicans, Mullally's appointment is divisive. She's advocated for blessings for same-sex couples.
What is our ideology regarding the LGBTQ, which is, kind of ravaging the West, and the Church of Nigeria is strongly and 100% against the LGBTQ movement.
Still, others support her.
It's also a way that God will prove to our generation that what he has been using men to do, he can also use women to do it.
Mullally, a former nurse, has advocated for asylum seekers and spoken out against medically assisted dying.
Across our nation today, we are wrestling with complex moral and political questions.
Straight ahead, please.
Issues she will have to confront when she officially takes on the role in January. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
The U.S. federal government shutdown will continue through to Monday. The latest attempt at a resolution, which was drawn up by Republican lawmakers, failed to gain the required 60 votes in the Senate. Tony Waterman has the details from Washington.
Any sliver of hope that this shutdown would be short-lived were dashed on Friday. As expected, both of these dueling funding bills failed to pass the Senate, and with Republicans dismissed for the weekend, this shutdown will now stretch into next week with very few signs of any meaningful progress. Republicans are really pushing for a 7-week funding extension, saying this will offer plenty of time to negotiate with Democrats on health care, but Dems are worried about a bait and switch, agreeing to reopen the government only for Republicans to allow those health care subsidies to expire. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of federal workers are at home without pay or have been working without pay with the prospect of losing their jobs completely. President Trump says this shutdown is an unprecedented opportunity to shrink the federal government, to lay people off permanently, something that is completely unprecedented during a government shutdown. He even posted a video of his budget chief, Russ Vought, as the Grim Reaper, seemingly going after government employees. Now, some people around the president are trying to downplay this. We heard from the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, earlier on Friday, saying that no one, including Trump, is enjoying this, calling it an unenviable task. Perhaps that is a signal that Republicans are somewhat concerned this could backfire on them, especially if thousands of federal workers are let go, something that President Trump has been trying to do since he returned to the White House in January. This is ultimately, though, a battle for public opinion. That is what is going to decide which side caves first. So even with lawmakers having gone home, we can expect to hear a lot from them this weekend. Tony Waterman for CBC News, Washington.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is headed to Washington next week for a face-to-face meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. Carney's office says the visit Tuesday will focus on shared priorities in a new economic and security relationship. It's been more than 2 months since a deadline passed to reach a deal on tariffs, and the Liberals are under pressure from the opposition and affected industries. The current CUSMA trade agreement with the U.S. is set for review next year, but the government says it hopes for progress before then. The Toronto Blue Jays' first-round playoff picture is set. The opponents are the New York Yankees. Game 1 is at home, and the Empire shouts play ball on Saturday. The CBC's Jamie Strachan has this preview.
And the Yankees have completed step 1.
Bring on the big bad Yankees, who finished just behind the Toronto Blue Jays in the standings, but are still favored in this series.
We know them well, played them 13 times during the season, and we own that series, which is why we're division champs.
Guerrero to Lauer, and they've done it.
Excitement around this team is through the roof. Nearly 2.5 million people in Canada watched the Jays' pennant-clinching game. Fans from across the country already showing off fresh merch.
It's Canada's team. It's the pride that we take.
I think in the way the world is right now, there's no better time for Canada to have a team to bring the country together.
There's even support from south of the border.
No, Red Sox fan through and through.
Why the Blue Jay hat then?
Well, I want to see the Blue Jays beat them damn Yankees, that's for sure.
The Jays clubhouse has taken note.
It's an unbelievable honor to play for a country. And I think this team, more than any other team I've been around, has kind of leaned into that a little bit, and they understand kind of how many people are watching them every night.
George Springer has left the yard.
This season's success was unexpected. Odds makers predicted the team would win around 75 games. They won 94, propelled by a collection of improbable storylines.
You could feel it in spring training, how they kind of had the mentality of they didn't care what anyone else thought of us.
George Springer, written off by many at age 36, has been the team's MVP. Players with minimal big league experience like Addison Barger, Ernie Clement, and Nathan Lucas became key contributors.
There's that real sense of unity and a real sense of they're friends as well as teammates. And I think over the course of a 162-game season, that really pays off.
Now the real test begins. First pitch of the divisional series is set for Saturday in Toronto. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada's main stock index was up more than 300 points in a broad-based rally, while U.S. stock markets were mixed on Friday. Here's a look at the numbers as we go to commercial break.
This weather update is brought to you in part by Atlantic Lottery's iGames. Play hundreds of games on the Atlantic Lottery app or at alc.ca.
All right, welcome back. And it's that point in the show where we get to see the viewer picture. Where are we going today?
Tonight, we're going to the northeast of the province. All beautiful spots. I know, cliche to say, a beautiful spot, but it's true. Have a look at this. We're going to zoom in on Antigonish County, and this is Pomquet Beach. And have a look at this. Ah,
rainbow, very nice. And the clouds on the other side is sort of the storm and the clearing.
That's right. And Daryl saying it was sunny when they got to the beach, but that, of course, is a big rain cloud. And yes, so you can see the rain, the precipitation falling there on the left side of the screen, and the beautiful rainbow.
Very cinematic.
Yes, absolutely. Love that. Thank you to Daryl. Ryan's picks at cbc.ca. Okay, so we're going to cloud up a little bit in Pomquet and in through the northeast of the province on Saturday. We'll see that mix of sun and cloud, though. Looks like we'll stay precip free. And then as we roll into Sunday, we're going to cloud up a little bit more as a warm front comes in. Cape Breton and the eastern parts of the province will, with that cloud cover, be a little bit cooler as well. And then we're into that southwest flow into next week. We'll pick up that part of the story in a second. Temperatures for tomorrow ranging between the high teens and low 20s across Nova Scotia, which is great for this time of year. And you can see lots of sunshine in the west on Sunday. The east, a little cloudier and a little bit cooler as a result. Temperatures 13 to 15 degrees. So this is the upper level winds. And note here, when we get into the oranges for early next week, that is going to be the warm push. And then as we look at the upper levels of the atmosphere, you can see that little pocket of cold air, those blues coming through. That's our front Wednesday into Thursday. That will not only bring us some cooler temperatures, it's also going to bring us a really good chance of seeing some showers. Right now, it does look like showers, but cautiously optimistic that that will at least be a solid drink for us. Better than nothing, of course. And you can see temperatures will cool off behind that front.
All right, we sure do need it. Okay, well, on a cosmic scale, it can be called a baby, but a young planet is going through a growth spurt that's making astronomers sit up and pay attention. This is an animation showing its behavior. The rogue planet is more than 600 light years away, drifting through space without a parent star. New observations show it's pulling in space debris and getting bigger by the second, about 6 billion tons per second to be precise.
It's already estimated to be more than 5 times the size of Jupiter. And while it seems to be showing the appetite of a star, it's a long way from reaching the mass of at least 80 Jupiters needed to become one.
Wow, that's pretty cool though, isn't it?
Yeah, very.
And that is it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Have a great weekend.